Hello, I'm Andrea from Cotswold Menopause, and today I am going to be giving you some tips on getting better sleep and lowering your stress levels and giving yourself some self care. Now, although I've come to this all through perimenopause and menopause, this actually applies to you at any stage of your life because every woman is selfless and puts everybody else first. And actually, what happens is this does start to put a stress on your system and it starts to affect your sleep. And so, if we look at these top tips today, it's going to help you get through the holidays, definitely, but take away these tips and use them for life. So, I said, my name's Andrea and I run Cotswold Menopause, but I'm actually a Chinese medicine and shiatsu practitioner, which means I look at things in a different way. So, you might pick up some things today you've never ever thought about just because of my new unique way of viewing things. So, firstly, I want to have a look at where sleep goes because you might have been a great sleeper or you might have been an awful sleeper. If you're an awful sleeper, we can help you get your sleep back too. But if you've been a good sleeper and now you're getting gaps in the night where you're just not sleeping, that's horrendous to deal with. So we're going to look at a couple of those gaps today to give you top tips. And this is really beneficial to know about the Chinese medicine clock because this tells me which organs are affected depending on what time of night you're awake. So you have got changing hormones going on, but actually the main hormone that's getting in the way right now isn't progesterone or estrogen. It is actually the stress hormone cortisol. And that's trying to do its job of de-stressing you. You've probably got too much of it and it's not going away because you're never truly getting back into a rest or digest state. And if you're staying in that fight or flight state, then it's keeping high cortisol levels in your body. And this is manifesting physically within your body. And then you may also be realizing that you're emotionally stressed and you may also have anxiety as well. If you don't have the emotional aspect, you may not realize you've got this physical stress in your body. So we're going to have a look at that. And then we're going to understand what causes night sweats and how you can support those. So, roughly, sleep is made up of five 90-minute cycles a night. That brings you to about your 7.5 hours. And it's okay to wake up naturally every 90 minutes. It's as long as you get back to sleep, because you might wake up as you roll over, you might hear something, the dog pushes you, whatever, something might make you wake up. As long as you go back to sleep immediately, that will register as a good night's sleep. But night sweats could be affecting you between 1 and 3 a.m. So, how do you resolve those? Well, the Chinese medicine clock tells us that that's actually the liver time. And the liver wants to process and clean your blood at this time of night. And it's a bit like the oil filter in a car engine. So the engine is running, everything's passing through the oil filter and it's trying to clean itself up. But if the oil filter is a bit clogged and the engine oil is a bit dirty, then it starts overheating and this creates your night sweats. So, dirty liver can be caused by sugars in the diet. So, if you can lower the sugar intake at your evening meal, you take the pressure off what the liver is doing in the middle of the night. If you're really suffering, then you might be looking into the realms of liver detoxing, where you're cleaning the liver. That's really beneficial too. But start with just either having your evening meal earlier or think about taking out some of the more obvious things that turn to sugar. Maybe as the holidays come along and all those special foods, choose between desserts and drinks because they all turn to sugar. And a lot of elements of your main food turn to sugar as well, like potatoes, pasta, rice, lots of plant-based things turn to sugar. So we want to be eating more vegetables, say, than potatoes. And that can help draw down the heat at night, and therefore you may not wake up. But you could also wake up when you go cold afterwards. But you could stay awake if you're finding a problem with being awake at 4 5 a.m. and that whirring mindset. Then we're looking more at the nervous system. And this will be a sign that you've got a lot of physical stress in your body. And the only way to combat that is nutrition. With the best will in the world, you can't get it all from food nowadays. So we do have to look at good supplementation because once we rebuild your sleep, we will rebuild your energy. So here is the relationship between stress and sleep because stress interrupts your sleep, and the less sleep you have, the more you put your body into stress. So, stress and sleep are in a catch-22 relationship. So, we have to manually intervene and emotionally intervene to kind of separate these two things out and lower the stress levels. So, to build up your sleep again, and better sleep you have, the more you'll manage daily stresses during your life. So, this link of stress is becoming more and more important in health because of the long term, low level, kind of chronic symptoms it causes in the body. Number one being inflammation. And if your body is continually inflamed, then things don't work properly. So we have to lower the stress to lower the inflammation. So you've got stress going on in your body. It is there physically. You may not be registering it emotionally, but it is there physically. If you are registering it emotionally, we kind of need to separate that connection, because a person that is being more positive and going, okay, I've got physical stress in my body, but I'm not feeling mentally stressed, or I'm not anxious. That's a good thing, because to be anxious or to worry or to question why, there's no point questioning why you've got stress. That's life causes stress. But if you're worried about why you're anxious or where the anxiety has come from, that way of thinking exacerbates stress, and again puts you into this catch-22 situation, which is actually you're spiraling down, and what we need to, is to intervene and turn it around and help you come back up again. So we have to manage the emotional side, how you're thinking about stress. So if you take positive action, whether that be taking supplements or doing something like yoga or contacting a professional because you feel like you need that additional help, that should put your mind at ease that you're stepping into making changes. So you should then be able to, manage that emotional connection that you have to the stress going on in your body. Then we have to physically combat the cortisol that is in your body currently. We have to bring those levels down. Then we also have to look at stopping those levels from rising again. So, combating stress right now is nutrition. The stress hormone cortisol wants to be fed, and if it can't get enough nutrition, it is leaching it from your body, from your muscles, your joints. It's causing brain fog, it's causing anxiety, it's causing gut issues. So, cortisol wants to be fed. So it can do its job of healing your body, so you can go back into the rest and digest state and not always be stuck in this fight and flight stage. So we're feeding your gut nutrition, but in feeding your gut nutrition and your body nutrition, we're going to feed your brain nutrition. And this will actually help your moods. It's going to turn around how you're thinking. So I always start work on you physically with your gut levels, to help you feel better. And then when you start feeling better, then you start knowing the changes are working, and then you make more changes. So then it becomes a positive kind of cycle where actually you're feeling better and better rather than feeling worse and worse. So some of the things we can do then, and I do have the mantra, your mood is what your food is. And however you feel today, look to what you had for dinner last night. That's always a good sign of what's going on. Maybe keep a food diary and a stress diary and how you're feeling emotionally, and map what foods are actually affecting you. And like I mentioned, the time you eat dinner. So if during the holidays, you're going to have those big meals, having them earlier in the day. So moving meals from 7, 8 o'clock, to 2, 3 o'clock can have a massive difference on your night's sleep, especially when you're eating the richer foods. As I mentioned, cortisol is using up the current nutrients that you have available. So what you actually need to do is have more nutrition. So I say treat your plate like it's a garden. And what that means is you're predominantly going for plant-based. I'm not asking you to give up meat. Of course, you can have meat, protein, fish, in whatever format protein comes in, you can have that. But the first thing you do is create a garden on your plate. So that's greenery. And then if you think in amongst the greenery, you have flowers, and that becomes your colorful rainbow, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, anything you want to add that's plant-based, that's really great. Chickpeas are great. They're a phytoestrogens. They're really good. And chickpeas are a protein as well. So some of the things start doubling up. But eating your food like this starts to put you back into the balance that you need for your body to work, for your cortisol to get the nutrition that it wants, for your gut, for the gut bacteria to be fed, because all of these foods are probiotics. And then these foods are also called antioxidants, which means they're working on lowering the inflammation in your body. If you're craving broccoli, that is a very, very large sign that you need to help your liver and you need more nutrition. So, with the best will in the world, we can't get enough nutrition. When you're in a stressed state, you can't get enough nutrition from your food. Once you've got to a balanced state, then maybe you will just get all your nutrition from food. But right now, if you've got sleep problems and you've got this physical stress in your body, it's manifesting as a lot of symptoms, which is pretty much what the perimenopause is right now. So, you still have periods, but you have a lot of symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, aches and pains. All of these things are actually caused by stress. So there is a kind of a saying that's going around at the moment. It takes 50 bowls of spinach today to have the same nutrients as a bowl of spinach 50 years ago. And this is to do with soil quality. So if you're craving broccoli or you're craving anything green or leafy, or you're craving chickpeas, all of these, like hummus or pesto, all of these things are indicators that you are nutrition poor. Even if you're eating a lot of dark chocolate, then you're probably going after magnesium. So plant-based supplements are going to be your friends now. This is what's going to get you back on your feet. And they need to be plant-based because they need to be something that the body understands and absorbs and can utilize. So your supplement needs to be, either condensed omega-3 oil, which is coming from fish if you're not eating oily fish a couple of times a week, or you might have something kind of brown or green and smelly, that it could be like 100 heads of broccoli, might smell like a compost heap. But these are the rich nutrition that your body needs. You feed your cortisol. When your cortisol is happy, your aches and pains stop, your brain gets clearer, your anxiety calms down. When cortisol is happy and doing its job and reducing, your symptoms reduce. You have to feed the cortisol to reduce your symptoms. If you want to do this quickly, if you want to see serious results within 28 days, you're going to need plant-based supplements to help you get back on your feet. So the third part of sleep and stress is self-care, and it might not be what you think it is. We're going to break it down. So self-care is what stops stress from happening in the first place. So what we've looked at so far is how to combat the cortisol levels, the stress that is currently physically in your body. But alongside that, we want to stop stress coming in underneath and replacing the stress that you've just, fixed. So the way we de-stress is with self-care, and it's how you think about things. So I've just chosen 3 tips here today. And one is about deciding whether you want to do a lot of things, because most women can't say no. Most women say yes to everything. What happens with saying yes to everything is then you feel that obligation to do it. You feel guilt if you don't do it. You feel stressed if you haven't got time to do it. So all of these things are negative to you. So my advice is, when you go to say yes next time, almost bite your tongue and give yourself that pause to decide whether that is actually going to improve your life in some way. Only say yes to the things that make you feel good. So you might be helping somebody else, but are you, in helping them, is that going to make you feel good, or is that actually going to make you feel really grumpy? So if it's going to make you feel grumpy, that is going to create stress. But actually, if doing something for somebody in the community or for a member of the family, you actually want to do it and actually you feel good for doing it, then that's going to be a positive on your emotions, your mindset, and your body. So it's picking and choosing the things you say yes to, not automatically saying yes to everything. Because once you impose guilt on yourself, or that just irritation that you haven't got the time or the space to do something, and then of course you're potentially letting somebody else down, and then you might be feeling guilty about that, and then you might not want to confront them. It could affect friendships, the list goes on. But the thing is, all of these things are going to affect your personal stress levels. So it's about thinking about what you're saying yes to. So I say it's saying no nicely. And if you're going to say no, get back to the other person quickly with it and use any excuse under the sun. They don't know your diary. You can have a doctor's appointment. It doesn't matter. Just let them know quickly so they know to go elsewhere and you're not giving them stress as well. So another thing that's happening a lot again because you're stressed is overwhelm. You're easily overwhelmed when you're stressed because you're on system overload, and so then things that you were coping with suddenly become gigantic hurdles to overcome. There's lots we can do about overwhelm, and one of the first things is to breathe. I have a saying, step away from the computer. That's normally where it's trigger it for me. Um, but what that breathing does, the breathing creates space. So it doesn't matter if you just sit there and do a breathing change, just in through the nose. And that kind of soft out through the mouth is actually a de-stressing breath. No controlling. You want to just doing that 3 times. It takes a minute. It can completely change your frame of mind, how you're feeling, and it's just calming you down. So, in the moment of overwhelm, you have to pause. And in that pause, you decide whether just 1 minute of breathing change is enough, or whether you need to go run up and down the stairs, go to the loo, make a cup of tea, walk the dog, run around the garden, scream, 3 minutes of qigong, 10 minutes of yoga. You can then choose what you're going to do to help you with the current state of overwhelm that you're in. So it's better to take time out, even if that time out is 10, 50. Maybe it's a power nap of 20 minutes. You'll be way more useful if you take a 20-minute power nap if you need it, than if you fight through and try to work for the rest of the day. Of course, 20-minute power naps aren't always achievable. So my next go-to would be, if you're in a work environment, is go to the loo and have learnt a few qigong routines. And by routines, I just mean some movements. There's a very calming one like this. Do that for 3 minutes. You will change your headspace. If you change your headspace, you'll take your stress levels down. You'll clear your head. You'll have beaten the overwhelm. There are so many things you can do for so many situations. But the very first thing you have to do is pause, step away, have a breath, and then decide what mechanism is right for you to reduce overwhelm. And then another point of self-care is how you think. This is a biggie, and especially how you're thinking at 4 a.m. in the morning. So if you're awake and you're worrying, and if your place is going to dark thoughts, or you're beating yourself up, or you're angry about something that happened yesterday, or anxious about something that's going to happen tomorrow, you're telling your body that there's a saber-toothed tiger just around the corner and therefore you can't sleep. So your body isn't going to fall asleep. Your body's going to stay awake. It's going to stay fearful, and it's going to give you all those awake nightmares. However, if you interrupt all of those worrying thoughts with nice thoughts, this switches your brain chemistry and produces sleep hormones. So in that 4 a.m. time, the best way to get back to sleep is not counting sheep. And it's not saying don't think those things. It's about interrupting that thought process with something positive. And the best positive you can do is to think about something you're either grateful for or that makes you very happy. And if you're watching this, it means you own a computer or a smartphone, which means you're probably living in a house, which means you're probably going to get a meal today, which means you're probably going to have a roof over your head and a bed to sleep in. So if you can't think of anything else to be grateful for, you can start with that list. Choosing one of those things and just thinking about all the ways you're grateful for it. So, it might be your grandkids or your dog or your husband or somebody in your life. Think about all the different ways. So it's not necessarily about listing, I'm grateful for this, this, and this. It's actually about choosing one thing and really feeling why you're grateful. This is what triggers the hormonal change and actually can start to make you feel sleepy in a matter of minutes. The first time I did it, I giggled. I thought, gosh, I'm feeling really sleepy. Um, so have a go. Doing anything to do with gratitude. Yeah, I see the memes on social media and you might roll your eyes at those, but understanding how and why gratefulness works is so, so powerful for helping you feel happier at any time during the day. You can do it any time of the waking day. The moment you start worrying, you can question whether that worry is legitimate, or you might be worrying about something that's out of control. So many women worry about something that's absolutely out of their control. If you can actually say, I'm worrying about something that I can't control, actually, let me interrupt it with something that makes me feel happy, you will be setting your mindset in a positive upward spiral. And even every time you do that, if you did that a couple of times a day for a few minutes each time, you would be de-stressing yourself. So these are self-care tips that are not taking time. I haven't asked you to take me time, which so many women struggle to do. What these are doing are helping you as you hit kind of fire break points in your day or night. Um, Actually, saying no nicely a few times is going to create you some more space. It will. And the more you do it, the more time it will give you back. And then you use those times to do rejuvenating rest, because the body resting is as powerful as the body exercising for a woman who is stressed. So, or for any person that is stressed. But it needs to be thoughtful resting, maybe doing some restorative yoga, reading a book, something that actually calms the mind and focuses it down to just the single thing you're doing. There's a great saying by a Zen master about the amount of energy that you have and that it is finite. And as we get older, it gets less. So use it wisely, use it for things that bring you peace, calm, and joy. So, what this is all built to is actually a pattern of feeling more positive about your situation right now, even if you are stressed, even when bad things are happening in your life. You can choose how you think about them. Of course, something awful might be happening, and I'm not saying it's being patient with it, but being patient around the rest of your life, being patient with yourself, being open to things and curious about things. Is there a different way of doing something? Accepting the things you can't change, letting go of the stuff that isn't your problem, um, being more mindful about everything you do, whether it can be eating, your speech patterns, even. If you beat yourself up, if you keep telling yourself you're miserable, you will be miserable. So listen to yourself. Are you nice to yourself? So all of these things are about actually how you feel about yourself, and self-worth and self-value is massive with women, and it can really, really get knocked as we get older and hormones change. But it's not about getting back to the woman that you once were. It's about accepting where you are now, but actually loving yourself for where you are now, so that actually you can move forwards and feel brilliant. So I'm hoping that these 3 steps that I've shown you today, how you feel about yourself, being more positive about the situation, these tips of self-care, nutrition, add it in. You haven't got enough nutrition. I haven't met a woman yet who's got enough nutrition. These are massive, massive steps on the road to change, not only for now, but for your health as you get older. I'm Andrea from Cotswold Menopause. I am available for chats. I do a free chat, 15-minute chat, and no obligation. But if then you want to follow on and have a consultation with me, I will help you get back on track. So thank you for today. Have a lovely holiday season, and I will see you soon.